I'll begin basically from being born out of poor parentage. All right, being unable to go to secondary school when I did pass my exam because the funds available. My father died when I was at the age of 11, and my mom being a daily paid worker, she was able to have the funds necessary that could allow me to go on to, and so I had to find myself doing cutlassing by task at the cemetery, all right, to get funds to help, to maintain the six of us in the family. It was in 1979 when the revolution came. At that time, I was just 19 years. And because of my background training as a cadet, all right, in Grenada, eventually I was called to assist in the People's Revolutionary Army came into being during the revolution. I willingly joined and I was in the army. Then I left for training in Cuba in 1979 September. All right, there I received 1 year military training, and on returning to Grenada, then I became a cadet officer. All right, and then in 1982, then I was sent to the Soviet Union for further training, where then on returning 3 months thereafter, I became the commander of the #1 unit, which was the motorized unit, infantry unit in the island. And it was during that period of time, as a second lieutenant and in charge of that unit, that the October 19, the October 1983, all right, event took place. And I was one of the commanders of the armored vehicle that went up to the fort where Morris and others were during that period of turmoil.
Let's go back then. So, you talked about 1979, and there was some turmoil. Tell us a little bit more for those that don't know about that part of Grenada's history, what was going on.
But in 1979, I would have known much about it, but what I was able to learn thereafter is that because of the dictatorship rule of Eric Machugeri, all right, where a lot of the opposing political leaders, they were beaten. You had what you call Bloody Monday, all right, and while Bishop Father were killed, and so on, right? So it's coming out of that era that the revolution was born, all right? And I said then I got into the revolution because I was asked to be part of it because of my paramilitary training as a cadet. And as I told you about my training then in Cuba, all right, in 1979, a 1 year training. On returning, I became a cadet officer. I was the chief of staff and chief of armament of the battalion, right, in the south of the island. All right. Thereafter, I was sent to the Soviet Union in 1982, September, and there I received training also, 3 months training, and then I returned to Grenada in 1983. On returning, already there was a brewing of what climaxed in that of the collapse of the revolution, the death of Morris and other cabinet members and others. All right, as I was saying that being the commander of the #1 unit, which was the motorized infantry unit, I was part of the forces that went to recapture for Rupert at the time. I was in what you call the reserve unit as a backup in case anything negative would have happened. All right, based on the mission that we had. And when I got there, I did what I had to do. All right, in terms of backing, because the two main units that were responsible for clearing the fort, they were commanded by Abdullah and Lieutenant Abdullah, and also Osimes. All right. Thereafter, we returned to the fort, to the major headquarters of the infantry unit that I was commanding at the time, up at Fort Frederick, and that's where at the time all of the military officers, major military officers, were stationed. And subsequently, then I get to learn about the death of Morris and etc. And it was then the invasion came. I had to command my unit, all right, in the battle. All right. I must say that we were organized, but not fully organized in terms of because we didn't have that much military experience, right? To fight the American, obviously, you had years of experience in battling. So I must say, however, and indeed the American, right, they substantiated by saying of the fact that Grenada, although that we had that type of military training, but it still took them a while, right, before they could have really take control of things, which means that they got resistance. That was their own one. They got some tough resistance from us, nonetheless, the forces that were available. It was then thereafter that when the American was fully in control together with the Canadian forces, that eventually we were taken to prison. right? We were captured, and then there was the charges of for murder, and because I was one of the individuals who went down there at Fort Rupert, we captured him. I was charged also for murder. But it's very
Murder of an
interesting.
individual or general?
No, but very interesting. No, they were charged first of all as a block, right? I think it was 19 persons, and thereafter myself and Cecil Prime was charged sometime thereafter. It's very interesting as to how we were charged because I recall a white officer who appears to be a CIA officer. He came to myself and he said to me, "Well, look, I know that you are a very influential officer, right? Because you know who I am and the unit that I was involved in, number one unit and so on. And you were saying to me, well, look, we can't send you outside because you have too much influence on the soldiers." And you know, interestingly thereafter, then I was charged for murder myself and Sister Brian. All right, and then thereafter preliminary inquiry, then the trial came. All right, as you would have heard about it on the news, I was the only person remain during the period of the trial, while the other guys, you know, created disturbance and so on. And many, all of the occasions they had to be out of the court. But evidence went along. I sat, I listened, and so on. And then at one occasion, I had the opportunity to address the court, and I let them know. I presented the evidence that they had presented, just explaining, well, look, this is what you have presented, but there's not to show that I have committed any murder, or was part of any conspiracy, because that was the charges of the